Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the podcast. My name is Billy Dees, and I am absolutely thrilled that you are here. If you've never checked out the program before, we are primarily an interview and a commentary podcast. You can find the Billy Dees podcast pretty much anywhere you find podcasts: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, all of those right down the line. We are live today. This is Monday, November 7th, and this is the day before the elections. And you know what? There's so much political talk. There are so many political ads. They are just all over the place. So what we decided to do here today is just have a little fun. Just have a little fun and maybe have some discussion going on. And I heard about this this subject anyway the other day. It's from the site BuzzFeed. Some of you might be familiar with that. And basically what they asked was, what have you enjoyed less now that you have grown older? Now, a lot of people contributed to this. There's a couple of pretty funny ones on here, actually. And it's something that some of these surprised me. Some of these actually surprised me. Here again, this was on the online platform BuzzFeed. I'm not going to read them exactly, just the general concepts here. A lot of people put some things in, but they're actually, like I said, pretty interesting. This one is pretty obvious. I'm going to start with this one. One of the things that somebody put in as something that they do not like to do as much anymore that they've gotten older is leave the house. That's probably pretty common. This person writes that they used to be a social butterfly, and now it's a struggle, to go out and get basic necessities and go to work. When I was younger, I would have to say this is probably true. Now, I worked in the somewhat of the music industry. I was a local disc jockey for many years, and I worked with a lot of bands and stuff. So I was very acclimated to, especially on the weekends, going out and being out. And a lot of the people that ran around with me, they'd always kind of talk down about people that stayed home a lot. Well, you're a homebody. And, girls would always tell me, well, I don't want to go out with a guy that's just wants to sit on the couch all the time. And, I get that. And I probably was out more than in when I was, let's say, in my early 20s. And as the years went on, because of the fact I stayed in that business for so long, here again, about personal appearances, working with bands and all these other things, I was constantly in the nightclub environment. And I don't know, it came a certain point. I'm going to say I was probably in my 40s. I decided, you know what? I don't particularly like getting home at 2:00 in the morning anymore. It's just not, it's not what it used to be. And by then I had other career paths well established. And of course I did, even when I worked in the nightclub industry. That was something I supplemented my income with, but I made decent enough money that I wasn't in a big hurry to dump that. But it just got to the point where, getting home in the middle of the night was not fun anymore. Another thing that was brought up on this discussion was holidays. Holidays aren't fun as we're getting older, according to some people. Now, obviously, as kids, there's the aspect of Christmas morning and getting your presents. And I suppose that as some of us have transitioned into being parents, which I for whatever reason, that just wasn't in the cards for me. I was around a lot of people who had kids, always enjoyed the company of kids. I was never in relationships where that seemed to materialize for me. I'm a stepfather now, which is great, but my stepchildren are grown adults now. So I guess that for some people, you get into that where, okay, I enjoyed Christmas as a child. And especially if you have children at a young age, then you don't have much of a gap there before, you look forward to Christmas morning with your children. Now, a lot of my friends are of the age, whether they have kids or not, that their kids are adults, and the holidays are a struggle. It's the idea that you got to go over to, now Uncle Jim's house. And Uncle Jim is, he's always drinking. He's always 2 sheets to the wind every holiday. And he's crude. He says bad things about my kids. But I have to be nice because it's Christmas, Holidays, I can tell you, I was never a big fan of holidays because for me anyway, it disrupted my schedule. And I'm kind of one of those people. I enjoy my schedule, and it takes a while for me to get back into it when it gets disrupted. But holidays aren't the same as you get older for a lot of people. The next thing is junk food, and I suppose this is true. Here again, when I was younger and I was out a lot, it was always easy to just stop and get something. And I don't know why. Maybe the food has changed, but McDonald's just doesn't taste as good as it used to. For me anyway, this is my own personal opinion. There was a time when I was busy and I was out running around and man, you know what? A quarter pounder with cheese would sound just absolutely awesome right now. And no, I'd rather eat nothing. If my only option is to get junk food, I would rather eat nothing. And actually, the person that made this comment says they actually like to eat vegetables now. And well, that's great. I still am probably not a big vegetable eater either. Although I do get a craving for a salad now and then. But nonetheless, my inclination to buy junk food as a destination. This is what I'm going to get today. That doesn't happen very often. Even now, the only time I get junk food is when I absolutely have no choice. I'm either far from home, I don't have a lot of time, and I'm starving. I got to, that's probably the only time I will do it. Now, this one surprised me. This one actually surprised me. I don't know if this is true for a lot of people, but one of the next suggestion was, and actually this person even says, I hate to say it, but it's video games. Video games are not as enjoyable as I've gotten older as they used to be. Now, here again, I'm certainly into middle age, and I got friends who stay up all night playing video games. They get the headsets, they're online and they're playing against people online, and they're just, I never, and I got to tell you, a lot of people are surprised to hear me say that, because as much as I like technology, I'm always one of these people that has to have the latest software and the latest gadget and the latest computer system, and especially being in media, the latest hot microphone that all the people are using. I got to get my hands on it. I was never one to play video games, and this was like, I'm the age when they were at arcades. We used to, after school, my friends and all that would go, in the mall. That was the big thing. And there was always an arcade in there. And all the kids would want to go in there and play, what was it, Pac-Man and all those things. I did it because my friends were there. But I didn't get fascinated by that. And I never got caught up in that. But for whatever reason, people who do say that, according to this little post here, that as you get older, they no longer occupy your time. They're no longer as exciting as you've gotten older. This one here is kind of obvious. Now, the post here that makes, they use this word contrarians. And, that's just somebody who's going to do the opposite of what you say. And a lot of times that's cute when you're young. People who dislike stuff simply because it's popular. It seems edgy and it seems cool when you're a teenager. But no, it's just, when you get older and you hear people acting like that. And here again, I got friends my age. You say, hey, man, the sky is really blue today. And they're going to turn around and say, well, I guess I've seen bluer skies than this. So it's contrarians just aren't as edgy. They're not as cool anymore when you get older. This one's kind of obvious. And here again, I was never a big fan of this next one, roller coasters. I was never a fan of roller coasters. I don't know why. I would get talked on, here again, I'm of the age. Remember when the double loop was a big thing, and the corkscrew and all these rides. And my friends would talk me on going on these things. And they were all right, I guess. Being upside down and all that stuff, it's just not. It's just not in the thing that's fun for me. I'm just not there. And if you're just joining us, what we're talking about today is things that you're enjoying less now that you're getting older. And this kind of caught my attention. It was a subject on BuzzFeed a couple days ago, and we're talking about what some of the people have put into this as suggestions. This is another one. Here again, I am very lucky. I never acquired a taste for alcohol. And that surprises a lot of people because, working as someone who did a lot of work with bands, and for a very short time, I did stand-up comedy, and I was in a lot of environments where alcohol was part of the vibe. You get your drinks, it's happy hour, blah, 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 and Billy D's is going to be here and all this. And I for whatever reason, I would have people offer to buy me drinks once in a while when I was in that environment. They'd say, "Hey, I really enjoy what you do. Can I buy you a drink?" And sure, of course, that's a sale for wherever I was, So I would take it. I would take a polite sip of it. And, I just never acquired a taste for alcohol. But according to what this person writes, it's harder to bounce back. When you go out on a big weekend and you have a big party, it's very hard to transition back into Monday morning the older you get with alcohol. And that's something I certainly understand. Fortunately, that wasn't a problem that I had to deal with. And I really thank my lucky stars that I never acquired a taste for alcohol, drugs neither, just never did. And that's not to say I have this moral high standard. Just for whatever reason, those things just did not jive with my body chemistry. I didn't enjoy feeling that way, and I was very, very lucky. Another thing people don't enjoy as much as they did when they're getting older, and that is social events. And yeah, I'm probably there too. There was a time here again, being that I was very social as part of my job, I used to enjoy going to community get-togethers and all these other things, but like this person here writes, the mental preparation beforehand, followed by the range of personalities that you have to deal with. And that is so true. I've been especially in business, social things around the holidays. You'll get the person that's going to talk to you casually, but they're going to, in the conversation, they're going to remind you how successful they are. I had that happen here not too long ago. I was talking about a recent purchase I had made, about a vehicle that I purchased. And well, you know what? I did the same thing about 3 months ago, except it was for twice the money. And you want to talk about nerve wracking. Okay. Now that's the type of thing, that little jibe, that's something I just, I have a hard time dealing with. And then we were on to something else. And I don't remember what the next topic was, but it's the same thing. Well, you don't have no idea how much money I bankrolled into that. And I felt like saying, okay, your car is bigger than my car. Is that what you want me to say? But I didn't. And just dealing with those types of individuals all the time, or get the salesman. What are you doing about your investments? Is there I'd really like to sit down and buy you a cup of coffee and go over ways that we can increase your portfolio and all that. I just my ability to handle those types of conversations have really waned that I've gotten older, and now I just want to feel, hey, you know what? F off. I don't want to hear what you have to say. This one is kind of obvious. One of the next things on the BuzzFeed post was feeling like I've done all the right things, yet the goalposts keep moving farther out. I don't know if that's directly related to age necessarily. That is something that can be very discouraging, no matter what time frame you're in, no matter how old you are. I really find that frustrating, and I feel it. I'm a bit of an empath. I feel it a lot for people who I know have played by the rules their whole life. I know have made all the right sacrifices, and the things that they want are just beyond reach. It's kind of like that carrot that's dangled in front of you. And yes, I can obviously understand that your drive to walk towards that carrot begins to fall off as you get older. This one, I'm sure we all can agree with driving. This person posts that they used to drive a lot for fun stuff, just pick up friends and go places and do all these other things. Now, not so much. One of the first things when I'm at work or when I'm doing something with a group of people and they say, hey, we have to go here and do this, one of the first things I ask is, hey, can I ride with you? I'm one of those people. I don't want to go there myself. I don't want to figure out where it is. I don't want to use GPS. I don't want to find a parking space. I just want to ride with you. Okay. And I got to say, I was never much of a traveler for traveling's sake when I was younger, but now that I've gotten older, driving is not at the top of my list. Shopping is another one. Shopping is another thing that people say they cannot tolerate as well now that they are getting older. I'm kind of like the stereotypical guy, I guess. I don't shop. When I need underwear, I go to the store. I go straight to the underwear section. I pick up whatever's cheapest and I get the hell out. That's it. I'm in and out of there. My wife or whoever that I'm with say, well, that was fast. And I'll say, yeah, that's because I didn't look at everything on my way in and everything else on my way back. I don't like fiddling around in a store looking for stuff. It's just, it's not my thing. This one is here again. This is kind of obvious. Another thing somebody said here on this is how fast time slips away when you're older. And it seems that when you're a kid, it used to move slower. And that's because you're always anticipating something. That's kind of my take on that. When you're younger, you have to wait until your birthday and then you have to wait until Christmas. And there's all these exciting things to look forward to. And you just don't have that as an older adult. I dread my birthdays. No, I don't want a birthday. Don't even mention it to me, And we already talked about the holidays and how I feel about that. I just, it's, as I've gotten older, I was contemplating this the other day, how easily it is to remember this time last year. Okay. And I'm sure that's for all of us. You can probably recollect an event, something you did last November very, very easily. It wasn't that long ago, right? Well, if you're lucky, you might live 70 or 80 of those time frames. Those little time frames, as easy as you can remember last year at this time. Okay. Even if you're lucky, you'll get 80 of those little time frames. And that's all a lifetime is. 80 some of us make it 90. A very few of us make it to 100. But when I hear people talk about how short life is, it's not really a cliche. It's an astronomical understatement. A lifetime is a blink. And it's not as exciting. It's something you want to hold on to. You don't want to wait to get to that next milestone. You want to enjoy where you're at as long as you can right now. And, that's kind of been my philosophy as I've gotten older. There's no better time for you than right now. The good old days weren't as good as you remember them, because we remember the good things about the good old days. We don't remember the bad ones. And there's no better time than right now for you to start enjoying your life. So, yes, I understand that time slips away as we get older, because we just don't anticipate the next milestone. We want to enjoy the moment that we're in for as long as possible. This next one is, it kind of touches on what I said earlier. Here again, we're talking about this post on BuzzFeed a few days ago, where the subject was, what have you enjoyed less as you have grown older? And here again, I was in the nightclub industry for a long time. I enjoyed the nightclub industry with the friends that I made, and I liked the excitement, and I enjoyed music. All those were good things. It was never a party to me, but nonetheless, for people that go out casually or just go out to party, loud places, bars, and things like that lose their appeal as you have gotten older for a lot of people. And here again, that's why I got out of the industry. Now, in my case, it was a little different because I had to go out. It's a little bit different when you have to go out and you have to get home at 2:00 in the morning. I couldn't leave early. And that grind got me down. I missed the social aspect of that life. I made so many great friends. And being in that environment, I had a lot of friends that they met their husbands or their wives or whoever, and they got married and they had children. And I was with this progression with them, with so many different people, and I was a part of that. I was in some shape or form, even though I was just the entertainment at a lot of those places. I was a part of what those people experienced in their lives, and that was very rewarding for me. And you don't hear people talk like that about the nightclub industry too often. But I enjoyed that part of it. It was never about partying to me, because like I said, I didn't even drink. But with that being said, yes, getting home in the middle of the night on a regular basis was getting way too much. And now that I've been out of the industry for 10 or 15 years, I can tell you that when I do go into those environments, I got friends that are still in bands and all that, and how they keep going, I have no idea, because a lot of them are a lot older than I am, and they're still hammering it out in the middle of the night. And that's great. When I go and hear their bands now, I very seldom stay that late. About 10, 11 o'clock. All right, I've had enough of this. I want to go home now. And the last time I did that, I was like, I can't believe that there was a time when I would be here until 2:00 in the morning on a regular basis. And then I would get up in the morning and go to my day job. And it wouldn't bother me at all. It was just part of my routine. And I was like, oh man, I couldn't do that now. One of the other things that they were talking about here on BuzzFeed is that they don't enjoy the internet as much as they used to. And I would have to say, I agree with that. When the internet first came out, and I was one of those people that, like, for example, doing media, I was in that age group where I really understood electronics. I understood like resistance and signal flow and all those other things. And then when digital technologies were incorporated into that, I knew what a lot of the software was trying to emulate. And that was an advantage that now I've noticed that people that are, let's say, way older than me, they don't want anything to do with computers. People that are way younger than me rely way too much on software to fix problems. And that's not really what cleaning up a bad signal isn't what software is for. Not in my opinion anyway. You want to know your craft. If you're a photographer, you want to know the lens you're using. You want to know the filters you are using, and use software to just frame it or give it a certain look or give it a hue. You don't fix bad photography with your software, and you don't do that with sound. You don't do it with video. So when that was happening, when that digital was coming in and stuff on the internet was happening, it was an exciting time. And even just the social aspect of it, when blogging was starting to take off and the websites were starting to grow, it was an exciting time, especially someone like myself who was in business. This was a new field that we could present ourselves in, and it was exciting and it was new. And now, it's so commercialized now. Everything has an ad. Everything has a subscription. Everything has, some kind of a paywall. All the streaming services, they're free for a time. And then when the good shows start coming out, they hit you with these monthly fees. And it seems like all the best shows are only on one service that is a premium. So it's it's gotten to the point where the freedom of movement and the Wild West nature of it, the idea that you're going to be exploring, it's too rigid now. It's not as fun to be there as it once was. And, a lot of people are talking to me about Web3 and, the non-fungible tokens and all these other things. And that's great. NFTs, all those things are great. Maybe that's the new wild frontier that we can go to, but time will tell. One of the next things that people like less getting older is going to the grocery store. I never liked that. I here again, even to this day, I go in there. If I need milk, I get milk and then I get the hell out. I absolutely am not a person that goes to the grocery store and walks up and down the aisles and picks out stuff. It's not happening. And here's one that's what's one of my favorites. And this is so true. One of the things that a lot of people don't like to do anymore now that they're getting older is anything that requires standing in line. Boy, am I right there. And that kind of gets us back to roller coasters and all of these other things. Not into it. If I have to stand, in line for an hour to take a ride that's 3 minutes long, it's just not going to happen. And I have the worst luck when it comes to getting in line. Getting back to the grocery store, I always get behind the person that's got 50 million coupons that has to talk to the manager why the one coupon out of 50 can't be used. There's some kind of a problem with their card. There's always something. I can go into Subway. When I go into Subway and there's one person ahead of me, I always say, okay, one person's ahead of me. I can tolerate this. I should be in and out here in 5 minutes, right? No, I get in line and this one person ahead of me pulls this giant piece of paper out of their pocket. It's like the Declaration of Independence. And it's got a whole list of sandwiches, all of them half sandwiches. All of them have, all special pickles, no pickles, I'm standing there for 15 minutes with this one person. I have the worst luck when it comes to lines. And, I'm totally there. This next one, here again, this is kind of obvious, but as we get older, we don't like a lack of leisure time. Here again, I believe, getting back to being a homebody versus not when you're younger, being on the move, like I said, when I worked in the nightclub industry, I worked through the weekend and then I would go to work on Monday morning, work my day job. And in the evenings, I would either have a date or have somebody, we'd be meeting over at Fridays and those kind of places were really big back then. And, you're on the move all the time. Ba-boom. Yeah. Keeping busy. And, now that, I've gotten older and according to this, a lot of people feel the same way. It's just, we enjoy our leisure time. And, it's okay if I'm going to sit here, with a cup of coffee and watch TV on Saturday morning. I'm going to go ahead and enjoy that. And we need more of those kinds of times. It seems like when we get older. And here's one of the last ones. This is kind of an obvious one too. And it's kind of for the same reasons that I mentioned about the internet. And that is social media. A lot of people, as they've gotten older, social media does not have the allure that it once did. And I got to tell you, I can talk out of both sides of my mouth there. I've been, as somebody who does media and I do marketing at my quote, unquote, my day job. And I enjoy the public discourse. I enjoy the conversation that happens out in the public domain. And for me, social media was in the early days, like let's say around 2010. Now it was around before that, but that's when it really started to get on the radar. That's when you started hearing things about trending topics and all of these other things. And I got involved with The big ones back then, whether it be Twitter and Facebook and some of I never did MySpace. I missed that one, but it was something new. Here again, it was something new, and I think the hope was that news, having become driven by ratings, they had to pick stories and they had to pick angles to those stories that were entertaining to keep the viewers engaged. And that doesn't always relate to the best news. And that's still a huge problem today. If anything, it's 10 times worse than it was 10 or 15 years ago. But the hope was with social media that you would have this public forum where, things that if your hometown, something was happening there, as it was presented on the news might be one way, but, there would be local people who could, without the filtering of what is going to get ratings versus not. The hope was that social media, was going to give a voice to everyone. And if you wanted to do the friends thing on Facebook, that's good. You could reconnect with old friends. And for those that wanted to follow the trending topics, there was a way to get news and information that wasn't through the broadcast ratings system. Well, here again, that just didn't quite work out, in my opinion. There's still aspects of that. There's people who do social media very well. And as someone who is very active on Twitter's going through some changes right now. I'm hopeful that a lot of good things are going to happen on Twitter, but the time will tell. Not to spend too much time on that, but the idea that we were going to have all this unfiltered information hasn't turned out that way. What's happened now is you follow the people that you like. Okay. You follow the people that reinforce what you already believe. And if you disagree with me, you're against me and I will block you. And everybody's in these bubbles now. And, here again, I'm not going to talk too much about the election, but we're live tonight just before the election here in the United States, what we call the midterm elections. And more than ever, it used to be, I can remember somebody being a Democrat or a Republican. But when it came down to getting after the primary process and it came down to the general election, people would always say, well, I'm going to vote for the best person. That's not true anymore. Okay. People vote for the people that represent their ideology. Okay. It doesn't matter what type of individual that person is. If they are in the same bubble that you are, if you are a diehard person on the far right, that's how you're going to vote. If you are way off on the left, you have a liberal ideology. It doesn't matter how right anybody else is, you're still going to vote on the party line. And actually, that actually hurts the election. A lot of these elections that are happening in the United States, I was just checking out some information prior to coming on here. A lot of these elections are going to be a lot tighter. Based upon the fact that the makeup of the electorate is 50-50 almost in terms of Democrat versus Republican. And it's going to be close only because everybody is going to vote for quote unquote their person, their guy or their woman. They're not going to vote for who the best person is. If some of the issues and some of the polling indicates this, if people would vote on the issues, these elections would not be that close. But people don't care. They don't care. All they care about is the person that feeds what they already believe to be true, gets in there. That's who they're going to vote for. And this is reflected in our society. It's reflected in the electorate, and it's reflected on social media. Okay. And social media in that regard, and having this free flowing place of ideas and events and other things that just has not gone the way that the early hopes for it were going to be. And it's not to say that it's a failure on all counts, but by the same token, it doesn't meet what we hoped it was going to mean 10 or 15 years ago. So anyway, that's kind of an interesting group of subjects there, group of ideas, things that a lot of people have enjoyed less now that they have gotten older. And, I suppose we could do maybe the reverse of this. I bet you there's a lot of things we enjoy more now that we've gotten older. Maybe that's another subject for a different day. Well, anyway, certainly hope you enjoyed this little fun talk. There's a lot of serious talk going on right about now with the business aspects of social media and what's going on in politics. So it was fun to share some lighthearted ideas with you. Hey, coming up in the next couple of weeks, some pretty exciting things from my perspective, of course. Totally unbiased, of course. It's been a while since the podcast is. I'm in Northeastern Ohio, and it's been a while since the podcast has actually gone on the road. And we have a nice mobile system, and we haven't been able to use it over the past couple of years with all that's going on with COVID and some of these other things. But now that things are loosening up, there's been a lot of people contact us, and we might be doing some live, not necessarily live, but on location things. We have some things coming up that we are going to be doing on location, and we're going to be talking to some interesting folks. And also some authors. We got the usual batch of really cool authors heading in through the fall season up until the holidays. So if you haven't had a chance yet, please do check me out. The Billy D's podcast is available on most of the major podcasting platforms that are out there. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, all those, and actually Pandora. That one kind of surprises me because Pandora isn't really known necessarily like Spotify is for a lot of podcasts, but enormous amount of a percentage of our listens come from Pandora. So, a lot of cool things coming up. You can follow me on Twitter. Speaking of Twitter, real easy to find on Twitter. At Billy D's. All right. Hey, thank you so much for listening to us today. And starting next week, we got some of these interviews coming up. We're going to be doing some location stuff. So do subscribe if you would like, and follow me on Twitter. And if you follow me on Twitter, tweet me. Okay. And I'll try to hit you back. Thank you very much for listening today. And I will talk to you again next week. I'm Billy D's and host of the self-titled podcast, The Billy D's Podcast. We are primarily an interview and a commentary-based podcast featuring authors and creators talking about their craft, advocates for community issues, and myself and an array of co-hosts discussing current events. There's no partisan ranting and raving going on here, just great content. You can find The Billy D's Podcast on your favorite platform and on Twitter at Billy D's. Thank you, and I hope you listen in.